Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Sirens Den, your fandom podcast where we talk all things pop culture under the sun.
Today we're gonna be talking about the one, the only, the Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Have you had the experience when talking about this movie where you referred to it as Suicide Squad and then someone was like, don't you mean the Suicide
The
Squad?
Suicide Squad? Yes.
You just wanted to be like, shut up. See, I take the John Mulaney approach of like, it's tomorrow now. Well, take your inhaler and get out of my house.
So, staying true to the theme and title of this movie, this episode isn't going to be a breakdown so much as we're going to be going down the list of deaths, because that's basically the whole movie. Every 5 minutes, someone dies.
Yeah. I went into this film expecting just a violent bloodbath. And boy howdy did they deliver on that. I was honestly like I knew it was gonna be a gore fest. And I was still really taken off guard by a lot of the gore.
Absolutely. Like it did say in the trailers from the horribly terrible mind of James Gunn. I know his style, and he did in fact stay true to that. I mean, yeah, my initial thoughts were basically the same. I was expecting a lot of gore, but I wasn't expecting some of the stuff that they did. They did stuff.
It was, I will say, really funny listening to Pop Culture Happy Hours episode on this, and they were like, it was just so violent, and I was like, yeah, it was. I love Glenn Weldon, but like he was talking about just like the people who's like, there's just some people who are like really into that and blah 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 blah. And meanwhile, like they start the movie with like Amanda Waller's crew taking bets on who's gonna die, and I'm like, that's us. That's us.
That's literally what we did. Okay, so let's just start down the list. This movie, actually, I'm gonna have a little fun fact detour. Just my uncle, who isn't so much of a comic book movie watcher, brought up the fact that this movie is heavily inspired by a classic 1967 film, The Dirty Dozen. I don't know if y'all have heard and or have seen that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to say that, like, looking at the posters, they are very similar. The font is very similar. Plot's very similar. So, like, cool little piece of trivia. I'm pretty sure Gunn was heavily influenced by this film. So the first part of the movie, this movie is very structurally by the books. It follows the 8-turn structure of character development and storytelling very closely. So, you start off, the first 5 minutes is the hook. And obviously the first 5 minutes are just chaos. Absolute chaos. So yeah, let's like, I mean, I really appreciated the structure of this movie. It was really good at balancing all the different stories. And I just want to say, like, again, very awesome superimposed, text in the film. I know that, might seem a little gimmicky, but it really brought out the quirky comic book absurdity of not only comic book movies in general, but the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it's I really feel that James Gunn, not only I came out of this movie kind of just like, James Gunn knows how to make a movie, but more than that, he knows how to make a good comic book movie. It captured all the fun of the Suicide Squad comics, which I really liked them, which is why the first one was like, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't great. I didn't come out of I think I've said this on the show before. I didn't come out of the theater hating the first Suicide Squad movie. I had no expectations. I had a great time. It was a horrible, horrible movie. But it was still dumb and fun and bad.
I mean, by contrast, two people
By
died.
contrast.
Two people
Yeah.
died in that one, and we had 8 die in this one. So
Yeah. And like by contrast, that movie was super forgettable, and this one's not. This one is definitely not forgettable.
So let's start out with, the first part of this 8-turn structure, which is the hook. Um, Suicide Squad get sent on a mission. It's very much like the first one. We already have like the rules of the world explained. They show up on this beach, and it starts off, with Blackguard, who's played by Pete Davidson, who it is then revealed he has sold them out to the military, and they are all surrounding them.
Yeah.
And like an idiot just goes up and is like, "Hey, it's me. I warned you guys. I'm the traitor." And then just gets his whole face blown off.
Yeah.
Clean off. Just bam.
I
Yeah.
love that he was the gun guy. He had like 20 guns on him and he didn't fire a single shot. I thought that was
Oh, you know what? You're totally right. He didn't do that. But he was, like joking with the guard, like, "Oh, gonna pull my gun out."
it's like to
Classic.
emphasize he's the gun guy. I have all the guns.
Classic.
And then he doesn't even he just instantly shot dead.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we said that Pete Davidson is in that movie to die, and that's absolutely what happened. But before that, I think they established the tone of the movie really, really well by that gory first scene where everything goes wrong at the beach. But even before that, just because we follow the character Savant, played by Michael Rooker, they kind of set him up as like the main character of that first section.
The
That's
eyes
kind
of the audience. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
We kind of get our like the down low from him, from Amanda Waller, blah blah blah. So you're in the Suicide Squad, do the mission. We'll blow your head off if you do anything wrong, blah blah blah. And then also that scene in the plane, in the helicopter, where they're being dropped off to their location, like there was such good banter in that, and just it really, I think, established the comedic tone of the movie.
I just love, we're going to talk about him. Obviously, Nathan Fillion was in this as TDK, and I just love Pete Davidson asking, what kind of animal this is. Is this a dog? And he's like, "You know what? I think it's an Afghan hound." Just,
he says it so matter of factly.
yeah,
too.
it's just like, wow, like right off the bat, you're like, they're all gonna die.
These
They
guys are
all so
idiots.
incompetent. One guy is scared that he's sitting next to a werewolf. It's a lot. So, as Pete Davidson's face gets blown clean off, that's, when all hell breaks loose. That's when the shooting starts. And you see all of these heroes use their powers kind of very briefly.
Oh wait, let's rank Pete Davidson's death. Like based on like surprise and funny, or like what would you give it out of like?
I think that was a solid A tier.
I'm gonna go honestly with B tier.
Okay.
Just because it was very, very simple. I have seen him, and I mean we'll get to it. I don't know, head stuff. I've seen a lot of head stuff a lot.
I would give it a B plus just because the surprise factor was good. I was very surprised. And it happened so quick. I was like, oh, we're getting right into it. And so I appreciate that. You kind of know the moment he puts his hands up and he's saying it, you're like, well, if they don't blow his head off, Amanda Waller's going to blow his head off. So, either way, he was a dead man.
Yeah. The only reason I give it A tier is because I think that, I think it really established again the tone that everything was going to go for. I think it was very purposeful, and just establishing what this movie is gonna be.
That leads us to Mongal, that was also a harbinger of chaos, as she just jumps over some wreckage and takes down a helicopter, and you had a lot of deaths with that helicopter, including hers, as she burns to death in what is a classic Gunn opening. That's where the credits start, is with this death and destruction. We find her burnt as she's trying to leave the helicopter.
I half expected the opening to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 to start playing that dun 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 dun, 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 like the music just
Mr.
start,
Blue Sky?
Mr. Blue Sky
Yeah.
just starts
Mhm.
playing.
Mhm. I can definitely see that. Recut that scene with Mr. Blue Sky.
I liked when they were taking bets and they couldn't agree whether is she an alien, is she a deity of a god, like what is she? You know, like kind of setting up Inawe in a way and stuff like that, like
Mhm.
him being a deity and so she's an alien. You know, like they're all familiar with the world. It's so well written. Ugh.
Yeah, no, I thought she was dope. I'm sad we didn't get any fight scenes with her. We just got her swinging on a helicopter, but she was good. I mean, I'd give it a you know what? I'll give it an A minus only because, she did take down a lot of people with that helicopter before she was also taken down. So, I respect that.
She wasn't as developed. You can kind of tell. I thought she'd last a little longer than the rest of them and not be
Yeah.
our second or
Mhm.
third, but we'll get to him. Um, Weasel, but we'll come back to Weasel. But like, but it was fun to see her, and I really enjoyed that. The moment she's like, "I got it," she tries to take charge, and the moment she starts swinging it, she starts screaming uncontrollably. Like it was brutal, but I don't know. Like I give it a B again. Not my favorite, probably C even.
Yeah, no, Mongal, like I think she was there just to be kind of like the cool looking alien for the B team, so to speak. Again, this movie kind of did exactly what we thought it was going to do, where that first team was all gonna kick the bucket and kind of a fake out. And I think that was just there to establish that there's going to be people from all across the galaxy on this.
So what would you grade her?
Well, because admittedly, her actions that led to her death led to a bunch of other people's deaths. So I would say, but also it was like kind of a dumb thing. So I'd say honestly a C tier.
You know what? I'm going to change my vote because yes, I do agree. She did take out a lot of people, but she also took down, the next death we'll get to.
The
You
producers
know
were
what? And for
stuck.
that, I'll give it a D for dumb. It was a dumb idea. So we're gonna go into our next sad death, which is Captain Boomerang at the price of, being blown up by a helicopter brought down by Mongal. So
Um,
I'm sad. Gonna give it that's an S tier from me.
yeah, no, because Captain Boomerang was one of those characters who was in the previous movie. Uh, and again, that movie being completely forgettable, it was kind of oh yeah, he was in that moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also like Harley was sad because her friend died. And like Rick Flag was sad because his buddy died. So there was some emotional consequence in it. But I think I'm gonna give it a C tier. I know I can't honestly. I can't. I know he had some funny quips in the helicopter, but I think it was really nothing that really wasn't outshined by anyone else in that helicopter scene, though. Yeah. R.I.P. Captain Boomerang. You were entirely
Harley calls him Boomer.
Harley calls him Boomer.
You know,
You
and
are entirely
she references him in her movie, right? She like points at the picture. Hey, I know that guy. Like those two kind of have a
Mhm.
established thing in this universe, so that's really broke my heart. And
yeah. I do feel bad for Harley. For losing her buddy. But Harley has cooler friends who are more rememberable.
I
So
did. Jai Courtney did very well. He does play that role very, very well. And as we said on our prediction video, we all he's there to establish that the old movie doesn't count, kind of a thing. Like we all knew he was gonna die. It just, I wish I had. He's so good at that role. I wish I had more of him. And I said this joke earlier, but I can edit it in here, Faith. But here's the thing about boomerangs, Faith. They always come back. They always come back. So
and I will say one thing with this movie, and we can talk about it a little bit later. I feel like unless we explicitly saw their head explode, anyone's fair game for coming back.
which
For
brings
sure.
us perfectly into the next person. It's TDK.
Yeah, TDK I thought was hilarious. Nathan Fillion always just brings so much character, even if we only saw him for 5 minutes. He has this cool thing where he detaches his arms and he looks so determined. And everyone's kind of just like mesmerized because it's floating arms until he starts just essentially like slapping them and patting them, because there's just not much you can do without, body weight behind to pack a punch.
Right.
Like, the punch comes from like the shoulder area. That's like where you swing it from. And if the shoulder is completely detached, you don't have anything for your body to. It's a lot. But they just start shooting up his arms, and he's obviously connected to them and can feel everything, which was just really funny. He's just screaming as his little arms are being shot. But we don't know if he is dead because he was still breathing when the camera came to him in the opening credit scene.
Yeah, he was technically listed as I think critical condition.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't shoot his vitals; they just shot his arms.
I did like the moment when they're in the helicopter before, where they briefly bantered about like, well, what does it stand for? It's just letters.
So
All names are letters, dickhead.
Boomerang was pretty funny.
Yeah. I appreciated that moment. Honestly, like the arms slowly coming off, and like he got, and like to the detachable kids credit, he got some kills in of the Quarter Maltese soldiers. So like he wasn't entirely useless, unlike someone of these other guys. So I still think I'm gonna have to give it a C tier though, because well, we didn't actually see him die, and while it was funny, it wasn't really that gory. It didn't really have an impact on the story really in any way. And again, we don't know if he's actually dead. He could be alive and kicking.
James
all we know.
Gunn and Nathan Fillion are great friends, and I think they did that on purpose. So just in case they want him to cameo in the next one, they can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe he'll just show up and have like a bunch of bandages, a bunch on his like shoulder stumps.
Let's go to Javelin, who I thought was, actually kind of endearing. I thought he was gonna be a jerk, but his death actually did make me sad because he was cute.
I think Javelin was one of my favorite characters, honestly.
You girls just like his accent, just like the movie said.
I mean,
And just like Harley, it's because we don't have one.
As she says it in a strong Brooklyn accent.
As she says it in a
As
strong
an
Brooklyn
Australian.
accent, being an Australian, yeah.
Yeah.
We were on the same page there. No.
And also, like, I love Flula Borg. He's just kind of a weirdo. He's been weird for years, and I've loved it. And I love it when producers are like, "Yeah, be weird in our movie," and he's like, "Yeah." And he got a lot more than I thought he was gonna get in this movie. When he did die, his moment with Harley, where he's entrusting the javelin to her, because he dies and he's like to Harley, and it probably because she flirted with him, like, "You're the only one worthy to take the javelin," and like Harley like completely doesn't get it. She's like, "Why?"
For who? I just love the classic. She reaches for his cheek, and you're like, are they gonna have a passionate kiss? And it's like, no, she's gonna slap him awake.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Very, very on brand for Harley.
And I felt like the javelin, going back to how we were talking about classic writing, it's a classic like show the gun in the first act, you has to like do something in the last act kind of a thing. And it was such a plan.
Oh yeah, now I saw in the trailer she was going around with this like stick thing, and I was like, what is that? And now the context is it's his javelin, and I'm like, leave it to Harley to just really make a weapon out of anything. And they say that's what Bloodsport's whole thing is, but I mean, Harley is, she can do anything.
It's Bloodsport's whole thing, it's Peacemaker's whole thing, it's Deadshot's whole thing.
feel like maybe that's just a lot of villains' origin stories is having terrible fathers. But yeah, Javelin. I think I give his death a an S tier. Really funny comedy. Um, Important to the plot. Um, Flula Borg. S tier.
All right, that's above A tier. Okay.
She went S tier. She went anime video game rules.
I'm not gonna jump that far. I'm just gonna give it a solid, A tier because I shed A tier. He was adorable and deserved better. But he rocked that costume, and for the hot seconds that he was there, he did some damage. That is it is a javelins are no joke. I definitely don't want to be on the receiving end of that. So our final death in this first section of the movie is Savant, who, after witnessing all this destruction and chaos, is like, I'm gonna dip out. And he does, but Amanda Waller is like, she warns him that he is deserting the mission and then blows his head off. Like she's threatened to do, but has never actually done it. So,
In
hey.
the first movie, she did it to
Yes.
Slipknot, right?
Fake news. I do remember she did do it. And that's when everyone was like, oh shit.
The
This is
guy who
real.
was there who punched a lady cop first time we saw him. Like, of course this guy's gonna be the Slipknot. I hated that movie. Of course Slipknot's gonna be the one to die. Then no one else dies in that movie. It's so stupid. Anyway, this is not that movie.
It is not. So with his death, that's when we get to the credits. And we also discover that this whole time, this was a diversion for the B team, which consists of Idris Elba, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, Ratcatcher 2, Polka Dot Man, and King Shark. And so that was a diversion for them to get on the beach because they are the ones that Amanda specifically contacted for Project Starfish. She knew the others were expendable. I mean, she knew Rick Flag would most likely make it out of there. He's kind of like her,
Well-
he's the yes, no. I mean, what is Rick Flag's deal? Is he in jail as well, or is he just a soldier that works with her?
I think
Question.
I think as we see in the last scene of the movie, she takes revenge in other ways, and she knew that lineup was gonna die. They're the diversion, right? And so I think she got mad at him, just like we see her pair those two up in the end credits with Peacemaker as revenge. Like, you two are probably gonna die in this vicinity, and that way I'm not killing you, but I'm killing you, kind of a thing. So maybe he wronged her at some point. He does get all noble at the end, and that
Were they there to die though? Because I do remember that, like, as they were going, like when they would cut back, or as everyone was dying, they would cut back to Amanda Waller, who was just there, like, Jesus freaking Christ.
That's very true. Like, they weren't counting on the Pete Davidson thing. I think. I think
when they thought Weasel drowned, like, she had like her whole like God damn it moment.
We actually
while we're
forgot to
on
talk about
it.
Weasel.
Well, he hasn't died yet. He didn't die. But
yeah, so true.
Their research is terrible. Like, while we're on topic, like, they didn't research Weasel. They didn't research that Idris Bloodsport. I just keep wanting to call him Idris Elba. Bloodsport was scared of rats. They didn't research. Just call him Knuckles. I'm trying to do the math here. The next to die.
Also, I will say, Savant's death is another S tier because at the very beginning of the movie, he murdered a bird with a ball, which hate him already. Bird murder is an immediate X in my book. But then his head gets blown off, and they have that beautiful shot of the same type of bird landing on his shoulder and eating some of his brain guts. Ooh, good
Excellent.
karma.
Yeah, you know what? Very true. I did like that part.
Can we just talk about how much bird murder was in this movie?
Surprising amount. I was like, James Gunn just has it out on birds.
I'm on a few bird pages on the internet, and like a bunch of them had like posted warnings to like their followers of, hey guys, just a heads up, there's some pretty gruesome bird murder in this movie.
It's
And
that
I do appreciate the canary in the coal mine symbolism. Like, it's not like a God, it's a horrible movie, blah. I really like birds. I'm just like, leave them alone.
yeah, the symbolism of like the caged bird wanting to be free and then just dying, right? While they're in the cage. It's kind of like he sets the tone like they're all these birds and then yeah. There was a lot of bird murder. As soon as you start thinking about it, you're like, oh god, there's so much.
But every bird murder is very, very bloodily avenged. So it's fine. No one who killed a bird got away with it.
Let's go into the Suicide Squad, which will also include some, or like the actual Suicide Squad that ends up carrying us through the rest of the movie, and talk about deaths there. Because kind of, I mean, we got most of the people right, but I wasn't expecting some of the people in the Suicide Squad to, or like the people that made it to the end, to still die at the end. Like, again, it really it did not hold back.
The other notable death was Harley Quinn, our girl, has a she meets up with the new dictator of Corto Maltese, who wants to take her as his wife. And they have a magical day together, and then she like kind of realizes, oh, yeah, this guy's kind of a sack of shit, and murders him, and has a beautiful speech about how she promised herself the next time that was with a guy and saw a bunch of red flags that she was going to do the healthy thing and kill the son of a bitch. And I just want to say I'm so happy for her.
I am too. Good for her.
Good for her. Me and my partner were just like, that's right. You tell him, Harley. Good. We're so
You
proud
kill
of
him,
you.
Harley.
I mean, I kind of felt like she was setting up her escape from the beginning in a weird way because she was counting her steps down the hallways, and then she made sure she broke the gun thing as they were having their what'd you call it, their magical evening. Um,
Right.
and so it kind of seemed like deep down maybe she knew she might had to do something like this because it to me right off the bat I kind of felt that. I agree that whole good for Harley. I love the part where she starts arguing with herself while like I know what you're gonna say, Harley. Why don't you just walk away? And I say to myself, I say to you,
Why are
and
you yelling at me?
why are you yelling?
You just died.
And she starts arguing with herself, and it's just it perfectly captured that Harley Quinn attitude and feeling, and I really appreciated that.
I'm one of the other things it's been really cool to see is because the first Suicide Squad movie came out, and like Jared Leto Joker, who just looked atrocious. But then there was her, and like for the most part, her character design was really cool, except she had some really dumb tattoos. Like
No rotten tattoo on her jaw is just not there. It's gone.
yeah. And it's like as these movies with Harley have gone on, she's had less of the horrible tattoos. She still has the Daddy's Little Monster tattoo
Mm-hmm.
on her chest, and my dream for DC live action Harley Quinn is for her to eventually end up with Ivy, as she should. And to
Oh
get
yeah.
it covered up with a bunch of really pretty flowers and like vines and shit.
We can only
Ooh.
dream.
I think that would be really cool, really cool direction to go with it.
I mean, I'm just gonna say my favorite one was that action scene that I was so excited to watch. I mean, the setup was perfect because they were gonna go save her, but obviously Holly don't need no man to save her. Yeah, so as she gets busted for killing, I mean, I forgot his name, the guy.
Luna was his last name. I remember that.
Yes. As she gets busted for killing him, she gets tortured by the next in command, by being hung up from her arms, just swinging and being electrocuted multiple times. So she, being the wonderful performer she is, pretends to go unconscious as the second in command leaves, and she ends up choking the bodyguard in a display of excellent like upper body strength. Ends up killing the bodyguard with her legs, snapping his neck. Good shit. Taking his keys and unlocking herself with her feet, which Margot Robbie did by herself.
Because she's the coolest.
We stan a queen who does her own stunts. So yeah, no, that was my favorite scene. Then she just goes through the compound, just slaughtering everyone, whether it be with guns. I love the scene in the corridor where she's hitting. She's in that circular room. Guards are coming from all around, and she's just spinning around, pew pew in true Harley fashion. But also when she takes the machine guns and is just mowing people down the hallway and the flowers explode. I was wondering what that was gonna be and like how it fit into the story. It doesn't need to, it's Harley. It's the way Harley sees the world, honestly. She sees little cartoon birds, flowers everywhere. And I think it was also kind of a way for Gunn to maybe not have as much gore because it eventually ended up being the blood splatter and everything. Blood flowers would come out of them as she shot them.
I was wondering if it was an homage to the Birds of Prey movie in a way, like when she snaps and goes
Yeah.
into her escapism mode, that's how she sees the world. And
I
when
mean,
she left,
definitely.
the moment she crossed the door outside to get into the taxi, it all stopped, but you still see it inside the corridor.
Yeah,
So I think it's like when she goes into escapism mode.
I absolutely agree. But then she finds the javelin and takes out more people with it. She finds the javelin like she's in a video game, just like a
holy
just
sound.
glowed. Yeah, and chorus of angels, and she's like, "Oh, don't mind if I do." And then just does what Harley does best and just wreaks havoc.
Yeah. So kind of talking about the Harley Quinn sequence there. Their Bloodsport, or not Bloodsport, Variety magazine, not Bloodsport.
Way off.
They did a really good interview with James Gunn, where they just kind of talked about like the process of making the movie and just like notable parts of it and just kind of where his head is at after like all the BS with Disney and whatnot. But they do kind of talk about that section where she goes on that rampage in the to get out. But he wanted it to kind of feel like cartoonish, postmodern Mary Poppins-esque, as just kind of a way of this is a really empowering moment for her. And just it's magical and freeing in that way. Like she's getting like a true, like she's escaping from this prison. And so he really just wanted to build in kind of a magical realism to uh make it kind of outlandish and just bigger and bright and just make it a really beautiful moment for her. Like so he just the reason for that was because he wanted Harley to just have a really cool moment. And I think that's awesome.
Which, yeah, I absolutely. If you have Harley in a movie, I would have done the same thing. I'd be like, entire scene, it's yours.
It did feel like she got her own little mini movie.
Yeah, no, she did. Like it was, and he did a great job of, like I said, balancing the stories because she wasn't with the rest of the group until that scene was over. Then she notices them come in to save her and reconnects with them. But before that, she was off on her own little story since the beach. And yeah, I mean, I thought she was dope. And then obviously she just continued her dopeness. No, she's absolutely adorable. I like that. I mean, I just think Gunn was like, this fight scene needs to be in a dress. How are we gonna get to that point? We're gonna shoehorn this really pretty dress in here. Cool.
I loved the moment when she like put her hair in ponytails, like, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
She did have her moment of shine, but then she kind of blended in with the rest, I felt like.
But find that with that. The Birds of Prey movie, it was renamed to be Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey because it was a Harley Quinn movie. And like I really James Gunn does really good ensemble movies, and I'm as much as I love Harley Quinn, and I love Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn, I'm kind of glad that it didn't become another Harley Quinn movie. Like she had her
Mm-hmm.
moment, and then she kind of took her rightful place with the rest of the group, and I feel like she found a good place within that group. It wasn't like she didn't feel out of place when she joined the rest of the ensemble. So like I was fine with that, honestly.
So the next sad death, probably the saddest for me, is Rick Flag. You know, we expected either Captain Boomerang or Rick Flag to go, seeing as they were in the previous movies. I was actually surprised that they took out both of them. So, you know, but he died nobly. But honestly, this part did surprise me, seeing as there was going to be a Peacemaker show. I expected Peacemaker to be on the gooder side. Gooder, is that a word? Yep, made it up right now. On the better side morally, like, would understand how, I don't know.
I
Point
felt
is, you know, Rick Flag ends up getting killed by Peacemaker, and now I'm intrigued to see how the show is going to go on, with Peacemaker kind of now being a jerk and kind of a bad guy. And I mean, we see that in the scene where they're rescuing Rick Flag, which I thought was a hilarious scene. You know, they go into this guerrilla camp where Amanda Waller tells them Rick Flag is, and they go and just mow down everyone. Peacemaker and Bloodsport are having a pissing contest on their shooting skills, which comes back later. It's like a plant and payoff type thing. But they end up taking down the whole camp and then realizing that Rick Flag was not in danger and that the people they took down were actually part of the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That the leader was just kind of like, okay, that's a bummer, but
I love that part though
okay.
because Rick defends them in a weird way. Like he's part of them. He's like, these guys, they're morons, but you need us, right? Like I love that he's like part of them, even though he's the official government face of them.
Mhm.
He did really good as this character this time around of blending that. Last time he felt very under Waller's thumb. This one it felt more like he was part of the Suicide Squad, and I really
Yeah. With that sequence, and I like for just some people, with at least for pop culture happy hour, that's kind of where like some lines were crossed in that. But I think what really worked about that, and especially that reveal, and something I think Suicide Squad did really well, is not only was it just a hilarious bloodbath, it was also a biting criticism on US foreign policy. And I think especially
Oh
in that,
yeah, for sure.
like they were told it to go in and murder everyone. Really no context, no questions asked for the greater good of America. And like in that sequence, we kind of see like portray or get both Peacemaker and Amanda Waller what really does make them villains. Like they're very much to the mission no matter what, no matter who has to die, I don't care. Um and kind of in a way making their villainry like their nationalism is what makes them villains. And
yeah.
I appreciate that. I think that's really really cool way to make a good villain.
She even says it like, "Damn Americans just coming in shooting first."
Mhm.
Mhm. And just everything with Starro, just the fact that they did bring him onto the ship, onto the spaceship, um, with no consequences or regard. And I mean, this is where we're going to start going into Project Starfish.
Mhm.
The whole reason for this movie. It turns out that, yeah, what they're hiding in the Jotunheim is the Starro, giant starfish boy.
Who was Justice League's first villain? If you do know your comics, in Justice League #1, they fought Starro the Destroyer. So it's kind of a cool, neat play that the Suicide Squad is technically on level with the Justice League in that comic.
Nice. But yeah, it was later revealed that they were funded by the American government, and her talking about destroying all trace of Project Starfish is not because of Starro himself. It is because of the evidence of the U.S. government, which, yeah, good on them for bringing in some of that social commentary.
Yeah. What I thought they did really well about that too, is because when we're first introduced to Project Starfish, it is the Thinker showing it off to the military dictators. After the Luna dies, the military guys take over and they're investigating it. But when they show footage of kind of showcasing what it is, of it kind of releasing its spawns, which I guess it's extensions of itself and attaching itself to 3 astronauts' faces. But what I thought, like, I remember watching that and being like, wait a minute, those are USA, like those are American astronauts. Weird. And then I kind of like put it in the back of my mind of like, okay. And then when it was later revealed, yes, this is a US government funded project, I was like, of course it was. That they tell us that from the beginning very subtly, because they show it was US astronauts who made that discovery. Like, of course they're not just gonna give it to some random government of like, here you go, get rid of it for us. We don't want it.
I think it comes back around too with Waller at the end, right? Like she's like, nah, that's their problem now. You guys withdraw. You know, like she doesn't care as long as it doesn't affect the US, and that's kind of goes into that theme right there that you girls are talking about.
So yeah, I thought they did that really well. But the fact that Rick Flag died wanting to get that information, he got a hard drive and he was going to give it to the press and wanting to let people know what we did. I think it was a very noble way for him to go. It really kind of showed off where Peacemaker is at as a character and kind of that moral line, which will be really interesting to see if how the show deals with that.
So actually, I think it's going to bring us to, I mean, we're winding down on deaths here, but actually I lied. While Rick Flag's death made me very, very sad, this next death was the one that had me the saddest, and that's Polka Dot Man. I thoroughly enjoyed his character. I think, the actor just always brings so much life into every character he does. And I was really hoping for him to survive. But I guess he got his like arc completed, I suppose. He kind of came to terms with his condition. He gets to be a superhero, but unfortunately just gets crushed. Condition is an alien virus. And he has portals. And just, the polka dots, they grow as welts inside of him, and he has to expel them twice a day. It was rough to witness.
I think his other thing you could say was a condition was seeing his mom everywhere. What a funny...
Oh, yeah. I absolutely did forget about his mommy issues. But, I mean, that's what helps him kind of take down Starro. Like, with everyone else, Starro wasn't as affected, by Bloodsport's bullets and stuff like that. But those polka dot portals did hurt him a lot.
Yeah. So there's interview. I don't know if it's the Variety interview, but there's an interview with James Gunn where he talks about Polka Dot Man and how he wanted to take the stupidest character in comics and make him really tragic. And I think he really succeeded in that. He gave a lot of heart to Polka Dot Man. His mom experimented on him to make him into a superhero. He finally kind of fulfills that purpose only to be crushed and like kind of be happy with himself and go from someone who like just was really hoping for death to, oh my god, I did it, I'm actually a superhero. This is amazing, just to get crushed by Starro. It was really sad, but props to James Gunn for writing it really well, and props to the actor for being really good, being a really good actor. David Desmalkian. I have no idea if that's how you say his last name.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. David Desmalkian. No, I absolutely loved him, and I loved him in this role, and I wanted to see more of him, which is why I'm very sad that he got crushed.
Oh shit!
Uh,
He's the Russian guy in the
Yeah.
Ant-Man movie.
Yeah,
yes,
but the Baba Yaga.
He's
That's like
the Baba Yaga.
He's the Baba Yaga guy. Yeah, no, I love him. He was great in this movie.
He's also a main villain in the Flash series. So he's all over the place as villains and stuff in these shows. for
Like
DC.
he's polka
Mhm.
dots.
No, he
And,
doesn't do Polka Dot Man. He plays some scientist or some shit.
Oh, the
And,
actor?
Yeah, he's in the Flash too.
Oh.
He's
Um,
Abracadabra in the Flash.
There it
movies.
is. There it
Very
is.
beautiful.
Abracadabra. Scientist from
Um,
the future makes it look like magic.
Oh, he's gonna be in the Dune movie. Speaking of that,
wow, is he?
he's gonna be Peter DeVry. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've never read Dune.
Neither
Did
have
you watch
I.
Dune?
I'm gonna watch it.
No, the original Dune movie. This is a remake.
Oh no, I have not watched the original Dune movie.
Did you
Isn't
know
it
there
bad?
was?
I did not know there was an OG Dune movie. I just know Dune is one of those books that people have kind of talked about. Like you can't. It's almost impossible to make a movie out of it.
I mean, they tried
I
once. It's
Yeah,
all right. I
They
think you
didn't
can
have
look.
the budget.
They didn't have the money. It's too
Yeah.
big, especially for the time because they did it in like the 70s. I want to say like around Star Wars. So it just it's too big then. But I can see it being working now. Some cool shit in that.
The only really thing I know about Dune is it was like one of those like describe your favorite book in one sentence that's like as like poorly as possible. And it was the description was you're in the desert and the sand is cocaine. That's it. That's all I know. That's all the
Well,
context.
yeah.
I know there's worms. There's like a sandworm.
So you know Star Wars, right? So you know spice mines, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if that ruled the universe, spice mines. And spice mines in the Star Wars universe are drugs, right? So it's a drug that you mine on
Okay.
this planet, and they kind of there's like a king of the corporation, but they treat him like a king because you own the spice.
Ah. Okay.
So it kind of simplifies it. So it's not wrong the way they're describing it. It's kind of right. Like, yeah, it's a drug in the desert that they mine. That's why they're in the trailer. Their eyes are glowing blue and stuff because they're all high on drugs. Like you got to be high to exist in this universe and shit. And so it's pretty cool. Anyway, that's our segment on the upcoming Dune movie.
I'm gonna laugh if it's bad. I'm gonna laugh so hard at all the heartbroken film nerds. Not that I'm rooting for it to be bad. It looks really cool from the trailers. I hope it's good, but I'm gonna laugh really hard if it's not.
I'm gonna give it a chance. It'll be fun. They'll make my money, and I think especially if it's just coming to HBO Max, then whatever, I'll watch it. Okay. So, anything else about Polka Dot Man though? Favorite moment? I liked how we could talk about how he was the only one that cared about Milton. He liked Milton from the start.
Rip Milton.
I mean, we did make a prediction on Milton. We saw him in the trailers and we were like, yeah, that guy's up to something. And he was exactly what we thought he was. He was the guy that was handing him sandwiches and driving him around and like being the lookout outside the club.
I just liked Harley's reaction to Milton. I would have remembered if we met a Milton. It's a very uncommon name.
And then she thinks Bloodsport's name is Milton.
Yeah.
I liked how emotional Polka Dot Man got over Milton's death.
He's my friend. He's a cool guy. He just died.
He was a really nice guy. Yeah, no, that was sad. But like also needed to happen. Like realistically, that guy was never gonna make it to the end. So I think we did say he was gonna live though in our when we were predicting deaths. So so we got that one wrong, I think.
Yeah, Polka Dot Man was a wrong one for us.
And Milton, both of them.
And Milton. Sorry, Milton. And then I mean, I guess we can segue into this kind of death. I mean, it wasn't part of the Suicide Squad, but we found out what Taika Waititi's cameo was, and it is absolutely not what we expected.
Yeah, we all thought he was gonna be Starro. He was not Starro. He was the OG Ratcatcher. He's Ratcatcher 2's dead dad who appears in flashbacks.
Yep, and he, James Gunn does it again with the one line that just gets me all choked up. And that was the answer to the central question, which again going, talking about how James Gunn went really by the books on this. The central question that was asked around the 17-minute mark is why rats? Bloodsport's whole thing is that he has a rat phobia after being, traumatized by them. And by the end, we get the answer to that central question. And that is because Ratcatcher the First talks about how rats are the lowliest of creatures and most despised of all creatures. But if they have purpose, don't we all? And it's so sad. But also very heartwarming and just a look at the metaphor that is Suicide Squad, which is, all these undesirable people
Yeah.
still having purpose.
Yeah. Ratcatcher 2 was really the heart of the movie.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
kind of like with that, Ratcatcher 2's dad was the foundation of
So,
the heart of the movie.
yeah.
Apparently, when they were casting for the movie, James Gunn contacted Taika Waititi, like, "Hey, I have a role for you in the Suicide Squad. Can you do it?" And Taika Waititi was like, "No, man, I'm really busy with the live action Akira movie. I'm so sorry." And then a week later, the live action Akira movie got scrapped. Because
Aw,
the studio didn't want to cast Asian actors. But that's
ridiculous.
um. So Taika called the James Gunn and was like, "Hey, do you still have that role?" And James Gunn was like, Nope, but we'll give you something else."
Oh no, do we know what role it was?
We do not, and I'm very
Ooh.
curious what it is. But
Ooh, me too.
Something that got wrote out. Ooh, early script days.
well,
Mm.
no, it was he cast it. He's like Taika was like, "I can't do it," so James Gunn cast someone else.
Hmm.
Um, and so
King
then
Shark, he
Taika was
does do a lot of like body work.
it might have been King Shark.
Like, and that's why they just used the other actor. They just went, "Hey, can you also play King
You know
Shark?"
that isn't King Shark Polynesian or like technically in origin?
I think so, because that was the whole thing, is that he could be an island god or whatever. They don't know.
So Taika would have made sense for take King Shark.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe that. That's it could have been anyone though. Hell, maybe it was Polka Dot Man.
Oh, that would have been funny. I love the Y Rats. That I agree. Well, I just want to chime in with you girls because it's like that. As soon as I heard Y Rats at the central question, I was like, "This is gonna hit me so hard later," because this is what this director did. It's exactly what he did to me in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and he's just gonna do it again, and he did. And it's yeah, I had all this fun, but man, in the end, there was a big heartfelt moment about like the human condition in the end, and I even with the bloody gore, that he really got that message across.
There's also King Shark who thankfully lived. He was one of my favorite characters. I really like dumb muscle characters, and I like sharks a lot. So King Shark really hit a lot of notes and characters I like. But my partner and I had a debate yesterday on because one of my favorite lines is just when he looks at a pigeon and goes bird. But my partner and I had a debate the other day of like how was what was the infliction of his voice the other day? Because was it a just monotone bird or was it a bird? Um, and we debated for like 10 minutes on how it was until we finally looked it up. And I was right; it was just a monotone bird. But where he got confused is that earlier in the film, when they're getting a briefing, he raises his hand and goes hand.
I
Um,
love the knowing nod he gives afterwards. Yes, and now that's your hand. Mm-hmm.
mhm. When
Mm-hmm.
he's reading the book and he's like, "I am smart and reading a book," and it's upside down.
Like I wear disguise joke was my favorite joke. Like that cracked me up beyond belief. And so props to Sylvester Stallone. He did very good.
Mhm.
He did a great job voice acting. And then who's the So Amanda Waller's the guy that helps her. He's the guy that did the body capture for the shark. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. He had a really prominent role in the movie in a bunch of ways, and I think that's fun.
We kind of guessed he would be our Groot character in a way, and we were right. You know, he's our CGI friend.
I liked that his whole arc is that he just wanted friends. Like that hit me hard. The when he's with the cuttlefish and he thinks that all the cuttlefish like they come to him and they're his new friends and then they try and eat him. He's kind of a tragic character in a way. People also I know he gets the Groot comparison because he's the CGI buddy, but like I would like to go to bet that like Groot and Nanawe are two very different characters. For one thing, Groot doesn't have a taste for human blood. Groot is a lot smarter. Um, yeah, but I don't think it's not like Groot doesn't learn other languages not because he's not smart.
No, you're right. It's the Chewbacca defense. I get it. He can hear it. He can understand it. He just can't speak. He doesn't have the vocal cords. Should. No,
Yeah,
are you good? What about Groot?
No, he's just a very grounding force to Rocket. And Nanawe is no way a grounding force.
No, he kind of just, and then I like how they treat him like the Hulk at the end in a way, and he goes and like attacks it and then just throws him away. But like, I did feel really bad for him when he fell out of the building and they're all shooting him, and he's just covered up, and I felt it's good direction to make you feel for that CGI shark who's eating people. I was like, no, he's okay. He didn't mean to eat all of them.
He's learning.
I mean, just be his friend. If you're his friend, he won't eat you. That num num though. Oh, that cracked me up too. Like as your final joke of the movie, that num num, though.
Yeah.
Like, classic.
Oh, he's so great.
His one-liners, they were very much this team did remind me of Guardians in some ways. He reminded me of Groot a lot with his like naivety to the human world and like how to interact with situations in general. But like in the hand moment, hand. Yes, King Shark, that is your hand.
His knowing nod afterwards, like he just owns it. Like yeah,
he's like
nailed it.
But also the fact that he's not that dumb. I mean, he's able to learn quick. Like he knew that they were in Panama, so he would have to maybe speak Spanish. See,
I love
He's
that.
kind of the Joey Tribbiani of the Suicide Squad.
Absolutely correct. And yeah, just the fact that he's played by Stallone, amazing.
There's a lot of subtlety in that kind of voice acting. Like people overlook Groot, but there is subtlety to it, and I think he was able to capture that very well.
Well, I mean, just like Groot had, Vin Diesel was given a Groot version of the script of like what Groot is actually implying, so he uses that in his inflictions, and I wouldn't be surprised if King Shark operated the same way, of like what he says is more than just like the baseline of what he's saying.
Yeah, what he says isn't necessarily what he means.
Yeah. But I love that he got friends by the end. And just like we predicted, he did not die.
There was a couple moments that did have me worried though.
Yeah, no, for sure. With those like piranha scuttlefish or whatever that he thought were his friends. But then I guess he realized what it's like to be like attacked and eaten by people you thought were your friends. So like it'll probably just solidify him not doing that.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, this was an example of why you don't eat your friends, because the betrayal you feel.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely glad. And obviously falling from an 8-story giant building.
Oh yeah, and he landed
and getting shot point blank by bullets. Like you can't kill the king.
When he didn't move there for a second, I got worried Like, I was like, "Oh, did we seriously just
Like,
lose King Shark?"
Nanawe, no.
I just called him King Shark. Yeah, and now
No, he was cute. You need a character like that. I mean, we didn't have it too much in as like Killer Croc in the first one.
Well, I guess we did have Killer Croc in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
God, that movie was so forgettable.
you know what Killer Croc did? He swam through the water. And right next to him in that movie are literal Marines who are trained to put bombs on things with scuba tanks and gear. And he's like, no, 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 I got it. And it's like, I don't know. This is such a better representation of what the Suicide Squad means and is. And it's just captured in that saying with the Y rats, going back to that thing again, like Y rats.
I
And
know, which we'll get more to when we talk about Ratcatcher 2. But no, absolutely loved King Shark. He's an excellent shark boy. I think we're going to be seeing him in the next iterations. I mean, do you think that they'll bring James Gunn back for future iterations of Suicide Squad, or are they?
I think since they were calling it James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, I think they understand like this is what we got to do.
Like, I feel like DC has to realize this is one of their better live action movies. And that, their ratio of good live action movies to bad live action movies isn't fantastic right now. So I think it'd be very silly of them not to. That being said, though, he's doing Guardians right now. So if we do get another James Gunn Suicide Squad, it's probably not going to be for a while.
Oh, most likely.
And did you see the toll it took on him? He is completely white-haired now.
I saw that, and that had me super worried. It has me concerned because I was seeing behind the scenes. But here's the thing. It's like James Gunn is in his 50s right now. Maybe in the past he was dyeing his hair. Who knows?
Yeah, he probably
But
was.
I did see interviews with him because when he grows out his facial hair is also white. And I don't know if that's because of the stress. I don't know, but it has me a little concerned because I saw him with his full white hair and I'm like, not that he looks bad, but like, what the fuck?
I know you see like a before and after because you see a picture of him from Guardians and he's all dark-haired and looking all spry and his hair's all spiked up and
I
he's
know.
looking and then all of a sudden it's the exact same thing but all white-haired and you're like, "Oh no." Poor guy.
But okay, continuing then. I guess we can go on to Ratcatcher 2. I absolutely loved her. I thought, she was obviously the heart of the film. And Sebastian was adorable. And I liked her. And honestly, I was really upset. And that was one of the reasons I was more upset when Polka Dot Man died. Because, afterwards, when she was taking pieces of the uniform or of his little costume, and it was all very sad.
She to me was the standout of the film. I do have a problem
Mm-hmm.
with her character trait being that she's sleepy. I think we could have added a little bit more to that. Like if she was dreaming of her father, like she did say she was having good dreams every time, so maybe she was trying to dream of her father or something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if we express that a little bit more and said it out loud so I understood that, then I could understand why she was so sleepy all the time. As it stands, she was just sleepy and I don't otherwise than that point though, man was she's the standout of this whole film. Like
Oh, she was amazing.
Yeah,
I loved her.
Danielle Melchior really killed it with the role. And I really hope we get to see more of her. I think she's really a character that like no one really knew about until Suicide Squad, and I could see her becoming really big.
she held her own against all these other people. Like she's next to
Because
these huge actors.
she really wasn't trying to be like these other people and she wasn't trying to compete against them. She just played her character so well that you can't help. She did her own thing and you're like, "Wow, it works."
One of the things I really liked about this movie is no one really outshined each other. There was no no one was a scene stealer, and I think that's great for an ensemble piece. Like everyone really kind of held up with each other.
But we can't talk about Ratcatcher 2 without talking about, Ratcatcher 1. And just the fact that these characters were put in this team together, they all basically helped each other overcome their flaws or their fears, like with Bloodsport being afraid of rats. And the movie ends with him petting Sebastian finally, which is just so wholesome. But that's because Ratcatcher is basically the one that took down Starro. Like everyone was good at incapacitating him, but it wasn't until she brought all the rats to go in through whew, the mushy gushy eye, and basically eat Starro's brain. It was brutal, but it just reinforced what the theme of the movie is. She was the answer to the central question, just as she was the one who helped pose the central question of why rats. And that's because, Ratcatcher the First, who was Taika's cameo, that was honestly like, yeah, now that I come to think of it, I can't see it any other way. And he
So
gave him an excellent role. Like
yeah,
Taika, he tugged at the heartstrings. With again, the answer to the question of why rats is him saying that they are the lowliest and most despised creature, but even they have a purpose. So don't we all? And that is essentially just the big metaphor of the Suicide Squad. And it's the push that they need to, or it's the push that she needs to continue her attack on Starro, eventually saving the day. It's all on Ratcatcher.
I do love how he
Ratcatcher the
took these
second.
these misfits, and when you really think about it, they're kind of high tier. Like the two killers, like the shooters were super accurate. You can't tell me that's not dangerous. Those shooting those
Mm-hmm.
polka dots dissolve everything in their path. Like that's dangerous. A shark is like these are all pretty OP if you think a little deeper. And they're on this island of misfit toys, and it's just like I don't know. I really felt for them. James Gunn's so good at getting you to feel for these lowlier characters, because like before Guardians came out, like none of us knew who the
Oh
Guardians
yeah,
were.
no one knew who the fuck the Guardians were. It was I remember in the in the honest trailer for Guardians, it was like, watch as Disney scrapes the bottom of the barrel for
And now
these characters.
and now they're household names. Everyone knows who Star
Mm-hmm.
Lord is.
For sure. Love it. Love to see it.
I really liked her. I think she was probably my favorite character. Well,
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite characters. My favorite character was Javelin as Flula Borg, obviously. Established this. Actually, no, that's a lie. My favorite character is Amanda Waller. And because God, Viola Davis is so good as her. But I
Mm-hmm.
think again, it's what you were saying. She was really the heart of the film. She was so endearing. Uh, and I think she kind of brought down with her relationship with her father the core messaging of like what you were saying, where she was the heart of the film and Taika Waititi was kind of the basis for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Danielle Melchior was like, I really hope I get to be like an actual villain as this character in a movie one day, and I'm like, yes, please, let's do that. But at the same time, like it's like, but she's so sweet though. How would that work? Um,
Conflicted.
but yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really glad she didn't die. James Gunn in an interview was saying that in the original script she died instead of Polka Dot Man, and he couldn't bring himself to pull that trigger. Um, and thank goodness. I mean, not that I liked not that I was happy that Polka Dot Man died, but if we're gonna choose between Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2, I'm glad it was Polka Dot Man.
Definitely fair. Now that I know that information, maybe that takes the sting out. But still sad for Polka Dot Man. I just want to just have a little quick tidbit. Dave, the actor for Polka Dot Man, got approached in Panama by a little stray cat that he adopted, and then had a little Polka Dot Man
Oh,
costume made for the cat. Cute,
oh,
adorable stuff. It's a lot. It makes my heart cry.
I love that.
But
That's
that's why we deserve more Polka Dot Man, damn it. Um, so then, it brings us to, one of our last remaining alive characters, or so we think. Bloodsport, who was the protagonist essentially of this movie. He was the dead shot of the Suicide Squad and was, the leader. I thought he was cool. I thought his arc with his daughter was nice. It was just, like the problem with ensemble movies is if you don't introduce your main ensemble cast early on, it is hard for us to connect to them. And because James Gunn had the alternate Suicide Squad that we spent time with prior, it just kind of made his story with his daughter just really non-existent.
yeah, I
She
didn't
just
really
showed up
care.
at the end.
I didn't really care about that aspect of it, but I really
Mhm.
did like him as Bloodsport. What I think was really cool, and I think what's really hard to do with ensemble movies, because there always has to be the straight man, and he was definitely the straight man, but he held his own with all these just insane people.
Mhm.
I liked he had a lot of really I think this is one of the fun and, Idris Elba is one of those people who he's cast as kind of the straight man in a lot of things, but I think this is one of the funniest I've ever seen him, like, there's so many times that just he had me cracking up just by reacting to the craziness around him, and, like, he would kind of, like, fall into that, like, I really appreciated that. Like, it's kind of what I was saying with, like, Ratcatcher, like, no one really outshined anyone else, like, everyone kind of held their own with each other, and I think him as the straight man character, that was especially impressive, and I really think it just goes to show that Idris Elba is a really good actor, and he really put his all into this role. I also liked because as the straight man character, he's kind of our audience surrogate. And I think back to the scene where him and Peacemaker have the continuation of their pissing contest and when they're murdering all who they think are a bunch of mercenaries and then it turns out they're freedom fighters and they're like oh shoot but when that's happening we as the audience are like yeah, gore and violence, they're killing people. And I think we as the audience have like oh no, a lot harder because it was Bloodsport who was in that, as opposed to everyone else.
No, I'm very intrigued to see how the Suicide Squad goes, moves forward because now he said he would be released. Like that was part of the agreement that he made with Amanda. Is that now they're released? So is it going to be is the Suicide Squad going to continue to be this like revolving cast of characters? Almost like an anthology type film series, or do you think he's gonna come back as Bloodsport again?
See, on one hand, I think a revolving door would be really, really cool. On the other hand, I think they made a really nice story about them kind of being the lowliest of society having a purpose and saving the day. And you can only tell that particular story so many times. So if they do a revolving cast, it's gonna have to have a different moral at the end.
Right.
That being said, I'd love to see what James Gunn comes up with if they do the revolving cast style of it.
That concludes the characters of who died and didn't. But now we're gonna go into a little subcategory of characters we thought died but didn't. Which first one up is Weasel. He was the first to die and the last to be revealed, or actually the second to last to be revealed as actually alive. Actually, I lied. The movie does not end with Idris Elba petting Sebastian. It ends with Weasel on the beach waking up and then just scampering off into the wilderness. And just picturing Sean Gunn doing this, like it's his brother. He's like, do whatever you want, bro.
Yeah. So what we think is the very first death of the movie.
Oh, and it is a full moon, so maybe he is a werewolf. A
Ooh,
wereweasel.
maybe. So when he did quote unquote die in the movie, um, I was laughing so hard. It's the very first what we think death of the film. this team jumps out from the helicopter into the water. It's revealed that Weasel cannot swim. Uh, Savant drags his body out from the water, announces that he's dead. Amanda Waller has like a "God damn it" moment, while Savant, I was crying with laughter as Savant was yelling, "The Weasel is dead! I repeat, the Weasel is dead." And I think it was a really great way to establish the kind of bullshit that's gonna happen in this movie. And the fact that he was not actually dead in the end, I think, was even better. I think that was such a great way to conclude the movie, is that the Weasel is not actually dead. Except he still has the explodey chip in his head, doesn't he? Like if
I
Amanda
guess
Waller can like
maybe
monitor his vitals.
very
uh,
true, but I think, and maybe she marked him as deceased already. And so
Like,
maybe that negates the chip, actually.
well, you would, because it's in that briefcase, right, or whatever that they have. So if you just like assume it's done, like, and then that whole team's dead, you just get rid of the briefcase. You don't need to explode heads, right? So maybe he still has the chip, but they don't have the activator.
I never got rid of the briefcase, though.
Well, it looks like they changed it out
I guess that's true.
because all the pictures
Yeah,
look like they were slid in, like.
yeah, that is a good point. But yeah, maybe he'll be the villain of the next Suicide Squad.
And now we'll get to our final thought he was dead but wasn't. And that is Peacemaker. The post-credit scene, because I guess DC's doing this now too, is them talking about how Peacemaker is still alive, even though he's in critical condition. And now he's going to be out for revenge. So this obviously takes us into our Peacemaker show. So I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I thought when he died, I was really surprised because we weren't expecting him to die, which, I guess he didn't. But I was wondering, we were wondering if the Peacemaker show was going to be a prequel or if it was going to be, something else. And no, it's just going to be a sequel. So maybe we'll see some cameos and or references of this Suicide Squad in the Peacemaker show. So, yeah, Peacemaker is another one that we thought would still be alive. So, I mean, I guess with the ones that we were right and the ones that we were wrong, it evens out. No, no, probably not. There were a couple that we were like, what shouldn't have happened. Hashtag bring both Polka Dot Man and Rick Flag back. That was some BS.
And Boomerang.
And Boomerang, bring Boomer back.
Bring.
Can live without Boomerang.
You're wrong.
You're Boomer wrong.
You're Boomer. That's the thing about boomerangs. Remember that joke? Do I need to make that joke again?
So, I will be going into Peacemaker more as the show comes out. We'll be doing a regular breakdown thing. But that concludes our kill list, or were we right or wrong on who made it in the Suicide Squad?
Can we talk about Amanda Waller real quick? In just in terms of characters.
Yeah.
Of course.
She's probably one of my favorite not TV villains, just favorite movie villains. I think she's so interesting. I love the fact that even in the first forgettable Suicide Squad movie, Viola Davis's performance as her was one of the most memorable and best parts of that film. And she has so much fun as that character. She's just this acclaimed, award-winning actress, and I think it would be very easy for her to be like, blah blah blah. It's a paycheck movie, but she really kind of puts so much acting chops behind Amanda Waller, and just makes her so threatening and villainous and interesting. The when she was raging at them when they were going back to fight Starro, and like you could see her spitting like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. The lady who knocked her out is absolutely dead, though. Can we talk about that?
Yep, she's gone.
She
I mean, she
annihilated.
didn't show up in the post-credit scene.
Nope.
The other two did.
But yeah, she killed her whole other team on a whim just to be rescued herself. So I think, yeah, there's no way that woman's still alive. Thank you for saving that island and those thousands of people. You're dead.
Yeah, no, huge improvement from the first one. Although I am bummed because David Harbour was in the first one. He was kind of like her little like right hand sergeant man, agent man, and he obviously is not in this new one.
Do we
But-
know if he's gonna be in Peacemaker show?
Ooh, yeah, I could definitely see him get brought back for the Peacemaker show because like, what other better way to get more people watching your show than to be like, hey, it's David Harbour, you know, TV show breakout.
Cool. Wrap this up. Let's get out of here.
So, if you got a topic that you think we should look at, you can comment on our Facebook page or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com.
Be sure to catch future and previous episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you to Ty, our producer, and to Sean Thomas at plusstudio.com for our theme song.
We'll catch you next time.